Chapter 57. The killing of Satrajit and Shatadanva. After Akrura visited Hastinapura and reported the condition of the Pandavas to Krishna, there was further developments. The Pandavas were transferred to a house which is made of lac and was later set ablaze, and everyone believed that the Pandavas, along with their mother Kunti, had been killed. This information was also sent to Lord Krishna and Balarama. After consulting together, they decided to go to Hastinapura to show sympathy to their relatives. Krishna and Balaram certainly knew that the Pandavas could not have been killed in the devastating fire, but in spite of this knowledge, they wanted to go to Hastinapura to take part in the bereavement. On arriving in Hastinapura, Krishna and Balaram first went to see Bhishma Deva because he was the chief of the Kuru dynasty. They then saw Kripacharya, Vidura, Gandhari, and Drona. Other members of the Kuru dynasty were not sorry because they wanted the Pandavas and their mother to be killed. But some family members, headed by Bhishma, were actually very sorry for the incident, and Krishna and Balaram expressed equal sorrow without disclosing the actual situation. When Krishna and Balaram were away from the city of Dwaraka, there was a conspiracy to take the Syamantaka jewel away from Satrajit. The chief conspirator was Shatadanva, who was among those who had wanted to marry Satyabhama, Satrajit's beautiful daughter. Satrajit had promised that he would give his beautiful daughter in charity to various candidates, but later the decision was changed and Satyabhama was given to Krishna along with the Syamantaka jewel. Satrajit had no desire to give the jewel away with his daughter, and Krishna, knowing his mentality, accepted his daughter but returned the jewel. After getting back the jewel from Krishna, he was satisfied and kept it with him always. But in the absence of Krishna and Balaram, there was a conspiracy by many men, including even Akrura and Kritavarma, who were devotees of Lord Krishna, to take the jewel from Satrajit. Akrura and Kritavarma joined the conspiracy because they wanted the jewel for Krishna. They knew that Krishna wanted the jewel and that Satrajit had not delivered it properly. Others joined the conspiracy because they were disappointed in not having the hand of Satyabhama. Some of them incited Shatadhanva to kill Satrajit and take away the jewel. The question is generally raised, why did a great devotee like Akrura join this conspiracy? And why did Kritavarma, although a devotee of the Lord, join the conspiracy also? The answer given by great authorities like Jiva Goswami is that although Akrura was a great devotee, he was cursed by the inhabitants of Vrindavan because of his taking Krishna away from their midst. Because of wounding their feelings, Akrura was forced to join the conspiracy declared by sinful men. Similarly, Kritavarma was a devotee, but because of his intimate association with Kamsa, he was contaminated by sinful reactions and he also joined the conspiracy. Being inspired by all the members of the conspiracy, Shatadhanva one night entered the house of Satrajit and killed him while he was sleeping. Shatadhanva was a sinful man of abominable character, and although due to his sinful activities he was not to live for many days, he decided to kill Satrajit while Satrajit was sleeping at home. When he entered the house to kill Satrajit, all the women there cried very loudly, but in spite of their great protests, Shatadhanva mercilessly butchered Satrajit without hesitation, exactly as a butcher kills an animal in the slaughterhouse. Since Krishna was absent from home, his wife Satyabhama was present on the night of Satrajit. On the night Satrajit was murdered, and she began to cry, my dear father, how mercilessly you have been killed." The dead body of Satrajit was not immediately removed for cremation because Satyabhama wanted to go to Krishna in Hastinapura. Therefore, the body was preserved in a tank of oil so that Krishna could come back and see the dead body of Satrajit and take real action against Shatadhanva. Satyabhama immediately started for Hastinapura to inform Krishna about the ghastly death of her father. When Krishna was informed by Satyabhama of the murder of his father-in-law, he began to lament like an ordinary man. His great sorrow is, again, a strange thing. Lord Krishna has nothing to do with action and reaction, but because he was playing the part of a human being, he expressed his full sympathy for the bereavement of Satyabhama, and his eyes filled with tears when he heard about the death of his father-in-law. He thus began to lament, "Oh, what unhappy incidents have taken place!" Then Krishna and Balaram, along with Satyabhama, immediately returned to Dwaraka and began to make plans to kill Shatadhanva and take away the jewel. Although he was a great outlaw in the city, Shatadhanva was still very much afraid of Krishna's power, and thus, when Krishna arrived, he became most afraid. Understanding Krishna's plan to kill him, he immediately went to take shelter of Kritavarma. But Kritavarma said, "I shall never be able to offend Lord Krishna and Balaram, for they are not ordinary persons. They are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Who can be saved from death if he has offended Balaram and Krishna? No one can be saved from their wrath." Kritavarma further said that Kamsa, although powerful and assisted by many demons, could not be saved from Krishna's wrath. And what to speak of Jarasandha, who had been defeated by Krishna 17 times and each time had to return from the fighting in disappointment. When Shatadhanva was refused help by Kritavarma, he went to Akrura and implored him to help. But Akrura also replied, Balaram and Krishna are themselves the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and anyone who knows their unlimited strength would never dare offend them or fight with them. He further informed Shatadhanva, Krishna and Balaram are so powerful that simply by willing they create, maintain, and dissolve the whole cosmic manifestation. Unfortunately, persons bewildered by the illusory energy cannot understand the strength of Krishna, although the whole cosmic manifestation is fully under his control. He cited as an example that Krishna, even at the age of 7 years, had lifted Govardhan hill and had continued to hold up the mountain for 7 days, exactly as a child carries a small umbrella. Akrura plainly informed Shatadhanva that he would always offer his most respectful obeisances to Krishna, the supersoul of everything created and the original cause of all causes. When Akrura also refused to give him shelter, Shatadhanva decided to deliver the Syamantaka jewel into the hands of Akrura. Then, riding on a horse which could run at great speed and up to 400 miles at a stretch, he fled the city. When Krishna and Balaram were informed of the flight of Shatadhanva, they mounted their chariot, its flag marked by a picture of Garuda, and followed immediately. Krishna was particularly angry with Shatadhanva and wanted to kill him because he had killed Satrajit, a superior personality. Satrajit happened to be the father-in-law of Krishna, and it is the injunction of the Shastras that one who is Guru Druha, who has rebelled against a superior person, must be punished in proportion to the severity of the offense. Because Shatadhanva had killed his father-in-law, Krishna was determined to kill him by any means. Shatadhanva's horse became exhausted and died near a garden house in Mithila. Unable to take help of the horse, Shatadhanva began to run with great speed. In order to be fair to Shatadhanva, Krishna and Balaram also left their chariot and began to follow Shatadhanva on foot. While Shatadhanva and Krishna were running, Krishna took his disc and cut off Shatadhanva's head. After Shatadhanva was killed, Krishna searched through his clothing for the Syamantaka jewel, but he could not find it. He then returned to Balaram and said, "We have killed this person uselessly, for the jewel is not to be found on his body." Sri Balaram suggested, "The jewel might have been kept in the custody of another man in Dwarka, so you'd better return and search it out." Sri Balaram expressed his desire to remain in Mithila city for some days because he enjoyed an intimate friendship with the king. Therefore, Krishna returned to Dwaraka and Balaram entered the city of Mithila. When the king of Mithila saw the arrival of Sri Balaram in his city, he was most pleased and received the Lord with great honor and hospitality. He gave many valuable presents to Balaramji in order to seek his pleasure. At this time, Sri Balaram lived in the city for several years as the honored guest of the king of Mithila, Janak Maharaj. During this time, Duryodhana, the eldest son of Dhritarashtra, took the opportunity to come to Balaram and learn from him the art of fighting with a club. After killing Shatadanva, Krishna returned to Dwaraka, and in order to please his wife Satyabhama, he informed her of the death of Shatadanva, the killer of her father. But he also informed her that the jewel had not been found in his possession. Then, according to religious principles, Krishna, along with Satyabhama, performed ceremonies in honor of his departed father-in-law. In those ceremonies, all the friends and relatives of the family joined together. Akrura and Kritavarma were prominent members in the conspiracy to kill Satrajit, having incited Shatadanva to kill him. So when they heard of the death of Shatadanva at Krishna's hand, and when they also heard that Krishna had returned to Dwarka, they both immediately left the city. The citizens of Dwarka felt themselves threatened with pestilence and natural disturbances due to the absence of Akrura from the city. This was a kind of superstition, because while Lord Krishna was present there, there could not be any pestilence, famine, or natural disturbances. But in the absence of Akrura, there were apparently some disturbances in Dwarka. The superstition arose for the following reason. Once, in the province of Kashi, Varanasi, there was severe drought. Practically no rain fell. At that time, the king of Kashi arranged the marriage of his daughter, known as Gandhani, with Svapalka, the father of Akrura. This was done by the king of Kashi on the advice of an astrologer. And actually it so happened that after the marriage of the king's daughter with Svapalka, there was sufficient rainfall in the province. Due to this supernatural power of Svavalka, his son Akrura was considered equally powerful, and people were under the impression that wherever Akrura or his father stayed, there would be no natural disturbance, such as famine or drought. That kingdom is considered happy where there is no famine, pestilence, or excessive heat and cold, and where people are happy mentally, spiritually, and physically. As soon as there was some disturbance in Dwaraka, people considered the cause to be the absence of an auspicious personality in the city. Thus, there was a rumor that because of the absence of Akrura, inauspicious things were happening. After the departure of Akrura, some of the elderly residents of the city also began to perceive inauspicious signs due to the absence of the Syamantaka jewel. When Lord Sri Krishna heard these rumors spread by the people, he decided to summon Akrura from the kingdom of Kashi. Akrura was Krishna's uncle. Therefore, when he came back to Dwarka, Lord Krishna first of all gave him a welcome befitting a superior person. Krishna is the supersoul in everyone and knows everything going on in everyone's heart. He knew everything that had happened in connection with Akrura's conspiracy with Shatadanva. Therefore, he smilingly began to speak to Akrura. Addressing him as the chief among munificent men, Krishna said, "My dear uncle, it is already known to me that the Syamantaka jewel was left by Shatadanva with you. Presently there is no direct claimant of the Syamantaka jewel, for King Satyajit has no male issue. His daughter Satyabhama is not very eager for this jewel, yet her expected son, as the grandson of Satyajit, would, after performing the regulative principles of inheritance, be the legal claimant of the jewel. Lord Krishna indicated by this statement that Satyabhama was already pregnant and that her son would be the real claimant of the jewel and would certainly take it from Akrura. Krishna continued, "This jewel is so powerful that no ordinary man is able to keep it. I know that you are very pious in activities, so there's no objection to the jewels being kept with you. There is one difficulty, and that is that my elder brother, Sri Balaram, does not believe my version that the jewel is with you. I therefore request you, O large-hearted one, to show me the jewel just once before my other relatives, so that they may be pacified and reject various kinds of rumors. You cannot deny that the jewel is with you, because we can understand that you have enhanced your opulence and are performing sacrifices on an altar made of solid gold. The properties of the jewel were known. Wherever the jewel remained, it would produce for the keeper more than 2 mounds of pure gold daily. Akrura was getting gold in that proportion and distributing it profusely at sacrificial performances. Lord Krishna recited Akrura's lavishly spending gold as positive evidence of his possessing the Syamantaka jewel. When Lord Krishna, in friendly terms and sweet language, impressed Akrura about the real fact, and Akrura understood that nothing could be concealed from the knowledge of Sri Krishna, he brought out the valuable jewel, covered by cloth, but shining like the sun, and presented it before Krishna. Lord Krishna took the Syamantaka jewel in his hand and showed it to all his relatives and friends present, and then returned the jewel to Akrura in their presence, so that they would know that the Syamantaka jewel, that the jewel was actually being kept by Akrura in Dwarka city. This story of the Syamantaka jewel is very significant. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that anyone who hears the story of the Syamantaka jewel, or describes it, or simply remembers it, will be free from all kinds of defamation and the reactions of all impious activities, and thus will attain the highest perfectional condition of peace. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 57th chapter of Krishna, the killing of Satyajit and Shatadanva.
Thank you very much. Om Jnana Timirantasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Miditam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Tadhati Shapadantikam Pande Hang Shri Guru Shri Jatapada Kamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrasatam Shahagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Shahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vancha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. After Akrura came back from Hastinapur, the further things happened. The Pandavas were invited to a house of lac that was later set on fire. Lac, by the way, is a kind of resin produced by the body of a certain kind of insect that lives mostly on banyan trees. So it's an inflammable substance. So the house was constructed with lac, and it was set on fire, and everyone thought that the Pandavas had been killed. And the word came to Krishna and Balaram also. They knew that the Pandavas had escaped with the help of Vidura. They'd been warned, and they constructed a tunnel underneath the house and escaped, although it seemed as if they'd been killed along with Kunti. So Bhishma Dev and some of the Vidura, some of the family members were aggrieved, and other family members were not aggrieved. They were happy. But Krishna and Balaram went there to express their aggrievement also. While Krishna and Balaram were away from Dwarka, a conspiracy developed to take the jewel Shamantak and kill Shatadanva. The term conspiracy theory has become a magical verbal formula by which to dismiss any notion of joint wrongdoing that we wish to dismiss from reasonable consideration. We just say, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. You don't have to say more than that. Oh, it's a conspiracy theory, it must be rubbish. This is quite unreasonable and stupid. So many crimes depend upon conspiracies, bank robberies and many others. Murders all the time involve conspiracies. Insider trading, price fixing, espionage, all involve conspiracy. And yet, as soon as something's a conspiracy theory, oh, he's just a conspiracy theory nut. Now, granted, there are conspiracy theories that are invalid and even nutty. But there are also conspiracy theories that are entirely reasonable and in fact true and upheld by courts of law as being valid. So simply to call something a conspiracy theory tells us nothing. In any case, here's an original conspiracy theory, a conspiracy theory from Srimad Bhagavatam, no less, and in fact a a valid theory. The theory turned out to be factual. There was a group of conspirators. Shatadhanva was the murderer, and others were involved, including a devotee, Kritavarma, and even Akrura. Kritavarma had been, some of them had been disappointed because they'd been promised the hand of Satyabhama, but then she'd been given to Krishna. Others were disturbed that Shatadhanva had refused to give the jewel when Krishna asked for it. But in any case, they were united in their determination or their decision to kill Shatadhanva. Akrura got implicated in the conspiracy, Srila Jiva Goswami says, because he'd been cursed by the gopis. He'd been, or by the inhabitants of Vrindavan. It was Akrura who'd come to Vrindavan to take Krishna away. So the inhabitants of Vrindavan were most displeased with him and even cursed him, and so he became involved. And Kritavarma became involved because of bad association. He had the by bad association, even a devotee can be influenced. So Kritavarma was too closely associated with Kamsa, so he became contaminated and involved. So Shatadhanva came into the house at night when Satyajit was sleeping and murdered him. And the women all protested, but he did it. And Satyabhama arranged for her father Satyajit's body to be preserved in oil so that Krishna could come back and see what dastardly deed had been effected and do something. She went to Hastinapur to inform Krishna, and Krishna expressed grief like an ordinary human being because he was playing the part of an ordinary human being. Gudha kapata manasha. So Krishna decided that he would come back to. There's a place on one of these mats, Mataji. It's rather. Do you have a place, or you're sitting on the floor? You have something. Okay. So when Shatadhanva understood that Krishna would kill him, he tried to take shelter of Kritavarma. He tried to take shelter of Akrura, but neither of them would help. We will not do anything further that would offend Krishna. So Shatadhanva decided to run for his life. He got a horse that could run at great speed, and he thought, he took off. But Krishna and Balaram in pursuit. But the horse died near Mithila, and so Shatadhanva began running at top speed. And Krishna and Balaram got down from their chariot in fairness. This is Kshatriya code. And caught up with him and killed him. Krishna severed his head with the Sudarshan. But before leaving Dwarka, Shatadhanva had slipped the jewel to Akrura. So when Shatadhanva's body was searched, Krishna couldn't find the jewel. And he so informed Balaram. So the Balaram advised that it must have been kept with someone in the city, better that you go back and find out who's done it. Then, and Balaram had himself an intimate relationship with Janak Maharaj, one of the Mahajans, the father-in-law of Lord Ramchandra. So Balaram wanted to stay some time in Mithila. And there the king hosted him with great pleasure. And it was during this time that Duryodhana came to Mithila to learn club fighting from Balaram. Balaram was expert in club fighting, and Lord Balaram taught Duryodhana this art. Therefore, Balaram is also known as Duryodhana Guru. Srila Prabhupada gave one of his disciples the name Duryodhana Guru Das. And therefore Balaram also showed some affection for Duryodhana. After all, Duryodhana was his disciple. So Krishna returned to Dwarka, the funeral ceremonies were performed, and Kritavarma and Akrura took off when Krishna came back, and having killed Shatadhanva, they thought we'd better leave, and so they did. But then this rumor developed that because of Akrura's absence, there was some kind of misfortune, inauspicious things happening in the city. These were rumors because nothing inauspicious can happen in Dwarka. But it seemed that way, and the rumor was spreading. Some proposed that it was because of Akrura's absence, and some because of the absence of the jewel, which wherever the jewel would be, there wouldn't be misfortune. So in this way, there were two ideas about it. So Krishna there was a background of this that concerning Swapalka. Did I tell this story about the province of Kashi and Varanasi? I think I did. Because we've read that this is the second time we're reading this chapter, isn't it? So I won't go through that again. If you didn't hear it, you can ask one of the veterans from this class, and they will tell you the story. So Krishna called Akrura back, and Krishna welcomed him, and said in the court, it seems, that we know that you have the jewel. It's obvious, you're performing sacrifices on an altar made of gold, your fortune is increasing, it's an open and shut case. But Balaram doesn't believe me, so if you would just show the jewel once, that would be all right. So the Akrura showed the jewel, and in everyone's presence, and then Krishna returned the jewel to Akrura, and so that everyone would know that Akrura is back, the jewel is back, everything is all right. And most significantly, someone asked the other day, what do you do if you're being defamed on Facebook or wherever? So here the answer is given, that just hear the story of the Shamantakal jewel, and you'll be free from all kinds of defamation and the reactions of all impious activities, and attain the highest perfectional condition of peace. Some devotees who've heard this story may still be defamed, but so what? Ultimately, their real identity is safe from all defamation. All right, is there some question or comment? Yes.
Maharaj, about this whole episode has been very much, can it be looked at as the consequences of something material, like this jewel has come and there's so much trouble in one way, so much conspiracy and...
Yeah, material things cause trouble. Desire causes trouble, and the things that are supposed to bring happiness. I have a quote about that in a Greek quote, actually. Let's see. Now I have to figure out how to look it up. It's a good quote. I think we've got it. Yeah, this is a quote from a Greek historian, Xenophon, about the supposed pleasure of heaping up wealth. Do you think Satians are the residents of a particular place? Do you think, Satian, that I live with more pleasure the more I possess? Do you not know that I neither eat nor drink nor sleep with a particle more pleasure than when I was poor? But by having this abundance, I gain merely this, that I have to guard more, to distribute more to others, and to have the trouble of taking care of more. So you're quite to the point. Srila Prabhupada also said that even if you're rich, you can only eat the same 6 chapatis. You can't eat any more just because you have more money. But you can have a lot more trouble. You have to guard more. You can't trust anyone anymore, because anyone might be after your money. You have to have security guards, dogs, and so on. And everybody you live in a big house and you have a good car and everybody knows you've got money, so your life is at risk, especially in some countries more than others, but people know that you're rich, you're a target. But still people want to be rich and they even want to show off their wealth. Here I am, come rob me, come kill me. Because if you can't show off your wealth, what good is it? Prabhupada quotes that in Bhagavad-Gita. What is that? Ye shamarte kangshitam no rajam. What is that? Kim no rajena govinda kim bhogar jivitena va ye shamartam kangshitam no rajam bhoga suganicha. What use will it be to gain a kingdom and enjoyment if those for whom I would like to have them are killed? That is to say, I want to have a kingdom so that I can show it off in front of my relatives and friends. But if everyone's killed, then what's the use? So that tendency is there. I want to have wealth and show it off, even though it puts my life at risk. So all of this foolishness is there by the influence of the motive passion. Something else? Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
So my question is regarding the temple classes.
Regarding the temple classes, okay.
Currently, as you probably know, we are discussing Rasa Lila.
Yes.
And this particular episode where the gopis get proud of the mercy they have achieved, and then Krishna disappears. And I was wondering, this specific phrase stuck out to me the most.
Specific phrase.
That stuck out to me the most.
I couldn't hear. Stuck? Oh, a specific phrase stuck out for you. Okay.
The gopis thought themselves to be the luckiest girls in the world.
The gopis thought themselves to be the luckiest girls in the world.
And I thought, well, they are the luckiest girls in the world.
True.
So I was thinking, what is the difference then between being proud of the mercy you have received and just being able to appreciate just how much you have received?
Well, there's humility, by which one thinks, I'm undeserving, but Krishna is so kind. And then there's a sort of pride, we're the luckiest girls in the world. So maybe a little, not that subtle. And on the one side, I'm just undeserving, but somehow I've got this good fortune. And on the other side, well, we're beautiful, we're young, Krishna loves us, and so we're super fortunate. We all see this in young girls. If they have some beauty, or if they dress nicely, or if they come from a wealthy family, or if they're smart, or if they're popular, or if they're whatever, or if somehow the captain of the football team has taken a liking to them, whatever it is, then it's like you can hardly bring them back down to earth again. They become so inflated with their good fortune. So that tendency is there in men also. It's there. I won't take the analysis further than that, but anyway, it's there, and it's originally there even in the spiritual sphere. But there it contributes to Krishna's enjoyment. A kind of pride is attractive also. Feminine pride is attractive in a certain way. Feminine anything is attractive in a certain way. But so the all attractive is attracted to the gopis, and this spirit of being a little proud, Prabhupada said, is found also in them, but Krishna diminished that. Just as a side story, regarding this feminine pride, Padri Narayan Maharaj told me this story. He has a daughter who in her younger days was in school, maybe middle school or whatever. And the girls will get together, especially, I guess, the beginning of the term, and they'll start talking about, what does your father do? And that's, while the discussion is going on, everybody's being ranked. well, my father's a doctor, and my father's, a city councilman, and my father's owns a store, and my father's a this, and my father's that. So they're all going through it, and she says, and everybody's like listening and putting everyone in their slot. She said, my father's the president of the local Hare Krishna temple. And the other girl said, cool. Another question? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have a question from today's. Microphone, please. Okay. So, that's off. Hare Krishna. Better? Okay. So, from today's reading, I have question that two questions actually. Why Krishna didn't expose the Kauravas when they did the conspiracy against Pandavas and put it in the Lakshagra?
Why did Krishna not expose the Kauravas after after the Pandavas had escaped from the house of lack? This was a plan. The Kauravas could have just either refused to have gone, or they could have gone and then come out and said, aha. But this was their plan, to fool the Kauravas into thinking, yes, we've been killed. Yes, we've been killed. So Krishna didn't want to disturb that plan.
That was Krishna's plan.
That was Krishna's plan.
Okay. Second question, that why Balaram accepted Duryodhana as his disciple, though he knew that Duryodhana is not a good person, as not be eligible for the disciple.
He liked him. Everybody sees something good in someone. We think somebody's a fool or a rogue. Somebody sees, no, he's got some good quality. Duryodhana was very generous. What else was good about Duryodhana? There must be something. He was an expert politician, diplomat. So, he had some, it's not that he was powerful. He was brave. He was not, he was a Kshatriya spirit, coming from a good family, part dynasty. So he had some good qualities. He's another name of Duryodhana is Suryodhana. So he had something, and so Balaram liked him. That's all. And also because I'm sure he approached Balaram very submissively and with great honor and so on. So Balaram took it that, yes, come on. Even Krishna, he sometimes accepts someone who, from the material point of view, is very unfit. So that's Krishna's mercy, or it's Balaram's mercy, that they'll accept even an unfit person sometimes. Also, it lends some spice to the relationship. Krishna will... We heard the other night that Krishna's disfiguring Rukmini. Balaram's, oh, this is not very good. And then he's going back and forth between chastising Rukmini and chastising Krishna. So otherwise, Krishna doesn't have to expand as Balaram. He doesn't have to have an older brother, but it adds some, what shall we say, spice. Adds some. It's a source of pleasure for Krishna to be playing in these two roles at once. Sometimes we see that there's some dramatic play and someone plays two roles at once. There was a film back in the 1960s, maybe Dr. Strangelove and Peter, I've forgotten his name, somebody, famous actor of the time, played several roles in the film. Every now and then there's some Broadway production where one man plays all the roles. So Krishna is the original in that. He plays Saharamena Keshava. Krishna plays along with Balaram, but he's both. He is Krishna and he is Balaram. And he's all the other Vishnu Tattva incarnations at the same time. So Krishna's not only the supreme enjoyer, but he's enjoying in all of these different forms at the same time. So he's the unlimited enjoyer in so many different ways. And this expansion of himself contributes to his own enjoyment and the enjoyment of his devotees. Mm-hmm. Something else? Mm-hmm.
Marsh, can the absence of a saintly person cause calamity?
Can the actions of a saintly person cause calamities?
Sorry, absence. Absence.
Absence. Can the absence of a saintly person cause calamities? Yeah. The whole world is in calamities for the absence of saintly persons. Sure. The nature abhors a vacuum. In the absence of saintly persons, there'll be unsaintly persons, and they can certainly cause calamities. Therefore, Prabhupada wanted to create saintly persons to benefit the world. The demons only create calamities. What is that? Prabhavanti ugra karmanaha kshayaya jagato hita. By their vicious activities, they just bring about misfortune and destruction in the world. So the world needs saintly persons to make people fortunate. And in the absence of saintly persons, there'll be misfortune. Yes.
Hare Krishna. I'm wondering if there's anything written about how Lord Balaram became such close friends with King Janaka.
Is there anything written about how Lord Balaram's friendship with the king of Mithila? I'm sure there must be. Something in the back of my head says Vishnu Puran, but I don't know why. But there must be, but I don't know where. I don't know more about it. Yeah, I don't know more about it.
I just wanted to add to the Balaram point about his friendship with Duryodhan, and I was thinking Balaram seems to be sometimes more liberal, or Nityananda similarly more liberal in their, like some people must have hoped that Jagai and Madai would be killed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but
Nityananda Prabhu is unlimitedly merciful. Balaram's merciful, but he can be, Nityananda just forgives, and Balaram's killing Pralambasura and Dhenukasura. So he's not, Ramaharshan. So he's not unlimitedly tolerant, not at all. He gets angry with Jumunan also. So he's not a pushover. Lord Nityananda, even Krishna, he's more strict. But as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's more forgiving.
He liberates them all, isn't it? He liberates them all, though.
He liberates them all. That's his kindness to them. Even when he destroys the demons, that's mercy. Yes, thank you. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Coming back on the quote you just recited, I think because I was also reading that section, and there was a quote that we don't only need wealth, but we also need the power to enjoy the wealth, the ability to enjoy.
Yeah, that's, yes.
Yeah. And I was wondering if, for instance, that ability to enjoy wealth is just 30%.
Is what?
Is 30%.
Is 30%.
As an example.
Huh.
And then we become devotees, and we are not pure, our devotion is mixed. Is there also that same limit on how much happiness we can derive from devotional service?
No, there's no limit on how much happiness you can derive from devotional service, but the devotional service should be pure. If we're, to the extent that devotional service is mixed with other things, we won't get the full benefit or experience the full happiness of devotional service. The pure devotees, Ramante Yogino Nante Satyananda Chidatmini, they enjoy unlimited happiness. Brahmasokyam Tvinantam. So, but those, if we mix it with karma and gyan, then the happiness will, we think we're holding on to the karma and gyan because we'll get more happiness from our knowledge, from our stuff. But it works the other way. Those who are completely surrendered to Krishna and who are pure devotees of Krishna get the highest happiness. And those of us who hedge our bets or want to hold on to something material will experience less happiness, less knowledge, less everything. Yeah, that's a passage in Ecclesiastes. The author says that there are those to whom God gives wealth and everything they want, but not the power to enjoy them. So probably gives, I think Janaka gives the example of a young wife. For an old man or an impotent man, a young wife is not a source of happiness, because he doesn't have the power to enjoy. It's rather a source of frustration and source of his misery. A great, a big feast for a man who has no appetite or digestion is of no use. So simply having what supposedly constitutes sense enjoyment, if we don't have the capacity to enjoy it, is useless. And the Atmaramas, they can enjoy without anything. They don't need material stuff. They don't need wealth or power or beautiful mates or anything. They're, what is that? Antarjyotireva yaha sayogi brahmanirvanam is the, yeah? Where is that? Let us see. Yontasu kontara ramas tatantar jyotir eva yaha so yogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhutodi vajjati. The antasukha means happiness within. Antar aramas, taking pleasure within. Antar jyoti, illuminated within. Those who have these qualities, such yogis attain, they're situated in Brahma Nirvana, freedom from material miseries, and they attain the spiritual platform. So the Atmaramas, but even the Atmaramas of the impersonalist school become attracted to the personality of Godhead, because that's where the real pleasure is.
It seems for a materialist to not have the ability to enjoy wealth is a source of distress.
Yeah.
But for devotees, it is mercy.
It's mercy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for the materialist not to be able to enjoy is a source of distress. And for the devotee, it's a source of happiness. There was some person who was excluded from the kirtans at Srivasangan, and he became angry and cursed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He broke his Brahmin thread, his own Brahmin thread, and issued a curse. You'll never have any material happiness. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Haribo. I have that blessing also. It's in my chart that I'll never have any family happiness. Hari Hari Bo. Yeah, well, this family we have. Thank you. Transcendental family happiness. Yes. Something else? In the back. Oh, in the front.
Marge, someone was asking the question, an impersonalist goes to the Brahmajyoti as a spark, and then is forced to come back on this plane. Is it then only through devotional service that we get the full spiritual body?
Is it only by devotional service that one gets a full spiritual body? Yeah, because what will you do with a full spiritual body if you're not going to serve? Are you going to enjoy, are you going to be like an independent agent in the spiritual world with a full set of senses that you use for your own enjoyment? There's no scope for that. So you get a spiritual body, or the spiritual body is uncovered when we deserve to have it uncovered. Uncovered means jnana karmadhyanapratam. No desire for independent enjoyment. And the impersonalists, they're not interested in serving. They don't need bodies. They don't want bodies. There's one last question in the back.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I'm not sure if this question is very well thought out, but a few months ago when I was doing my bhakti shastri...
Even if it's not well composed, if it's spoken slowly and loudly, you get extra points.
A few months ago, when I was doing the Bhakti Shastri here at the VIHE, one of the teachers said that realistically, a lot of the preaching that happens in ISKCON is mostly Nishkam Karma Yoga.
Someone said that a lot of the preaching that goes on in ISKCON is really Nishkam Karma Yoga.
And I think he was intimating that if they were to preach like the real surrender essence of bhakti, then they wouldn't maybe get people in the door or something. And I just was wondering what you thought.
This is a common idea that somehow or other distributing books and doing other such things is Nishkam Karma Yoga, which of course would make Srila Prabhupada a great Nishkama Karma Yogi. You know, he wasn't a pure devotee, he was just really involved in activity, or as some of his godbrothers even ventured to say, you know, that Swami Maharaj is a good businessman, you know. And to that they attributed his success in spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. You know, he's better at business than we are. So this is, what shall we say, flaky. Srila Prabhupada considered book distribution to be the higher form of devotional service. The he placed it under, there's indirect and direct devotional service, or the primary limbs of devotional service are hearing, chanting, remembering, and so on. So Prabhupada counted book distribution as kirtan. And not only kirtan, but the best kirtan, the greater kirtan. So to then say, oh, book distribution, that's just karma yoga, and all right, nishkama karma yoga, is not a very much appreciated view. It depends on one's mentality. Even you may be working in an office, and that's pure devotional service. Driving a taxi cab, and that's pure devotional service. Mm-hmm. Or you may be driving a taxi cab and it has nothing to do with devotional service, or it's 50% for me, 50% for Krishna, whatever. But if a person is dedicating all of his energies to glorifying the personality of Godhead, uplifting the fallen souls, and giving pleasure to the spiritual master, it's hard for me to see how that counts as nishkama karma yoga. And then this was said by a teacher at the VIHE. Is teaching at the VIHE also nishkama karma yoga? And what's not nishkama karma yoga? So it doesn't depend on the particular engagement. It depends on your consciousness. And Prabhupada gave so much appreciation for those who were spreading Krishna consciousness, especially by distributing books. Even Krishna, nachatasman manusheshu kaschin me priyakritam. So, those who can't distribute books can go on thinking that it's nishkama karma yoga. All right, shall we have some kirtan? And those, of course, who are distributing books won't care, because they'll be in ecstasy distributing books. All right, kirtan. Are you leading kirtan? No. Who's leading? Hare Krishna. Okay, the rule is one tune, you know that. Only Hare Krishna and one tune. Those are the only two very strict rules.
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Jai Om Vishnuvad Panaman Supari Prajukacharya Ashtotarastashri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Ramana Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Om. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Oh, are we offline?